Most heel creams don't actually fix cracked heels. They just make them feel softer for a few hours. You put them on at night, your feet feel greasy, maybe even smooth the next morning, and then by the end of the day, the dryness is right back. The cracks never really improved. Here's the problem. Most of those products are just thick moisturizers. They sit on top, they don't break down the hardened skin, they don't penetrate deeply enough, and they definitely aren't built strong enough to handle severely dry heels. So in this video, I'm going to show you the proven way to actually repair cracked heels using a stronger, properly structured formula that softens, penetrates, and stays put overnight so that you wake up to real improvement, not just temporary slip. Most cracked heels aren't just dry, they're thick. The skin builds up layer after layer of hardened keratin, and a basic moisturizer simply can't break through that. So people keep applying thicker and thicker creams, thinking more grease means more repair. But thickness alone doesn't equal strength. If a formula doesn't contain a true keratolytic, something that actually softens and loosens compacted skin, then all it's doing is sitting on top and sealing in what's already there. And that's why so many heel products feel rich, but never really improve the condition of the skin. When hardened skin isn't properly softened, cracks deepen, pressure points worsen, and the skin becomes more rigid and less flexible over time. That rigidity is what causes splitting. It's not just dryness, it's mechanical stress on thickened tissue. And if you're only adding moisture without reconstructing the skin surface, you're not solving the problem. You're just temporarily masking it. That's why people say, I use heel cream every night and nothing changes. The formula was never designed to do what they actually need. To truly repair cracked heels, you need a formulation built in layers. First, a keratolytic level strong enough to soften compacted skin. Second, humectants that draw water into that newly softened surface. And third, an occlusive structure that locks everything in overnight so the treatment actually has time to work. When those three elements are engineered together, not just thrown into a thick balm, that's when you see real change. And that's exactly what this stronger formula is designed to do. This isn't just about making something thick. It's not about adding more wax, and it's definitely not about making it feel rich for 5 minutes. We're going to engineer this stick intentionally. We're going to use a true keratolytic level that's strong enough to soften hard skin. We're going to pair that with some humectants that actually draw water in, and then we're going to lock everything in with a structured, stable, overnight stick base that stays exactly where you put it. That's how you design repair, not just moisture. So let's head over to the lab bench and formulate this properly. So this formula is built a little more carefully than a typical heel balm because we're not just trying to make something thick and rich. We're actually trying to build a true overnight treatment stick that can soften rough heel skin, hold water where we need it, and still survive in a solid format. So with this one, the structure actually matters. The water phase matters, and the pH definitely matters. So we're going to build this in phases. Phase A is for structure, glide, and overnight hold. So the first into our vessel is going to be ozakerite wax, and this is the one main ingredient that gives the stick its firmness. It helps the product hold its shape inside of the push-up tube and gives us that solid stand-up structure that we need. Next is microcrystalline wax. This is going to reinforce the structure too, but in a more flexible way. It helps to strengthen the stick without making it feel too brittle or too likely to snap. Then we add in some sunflower wax. This gives us another layer of structure, but with a cleaner payoff than a heavier, tackier wax. So it helps support the firmness without pulling the whole formula too far into a drag. Now we add in some cetyl alcohol. This is doing two jobs here. It helps with the body, but it also improves the glide, which matters because a heel stick has to move across rough skin without feeling like it's scraping. Then a small amount of cetyl alcohol. This gives us a little more support to the structure, and it helps back up the emulsion system, but we're keeping it lower so it doesn't start making the stick too waxy. Next is cocoa butter. This gives us some hard butter support and helps reinforce the firmness of the stick. Now we add in some Softisan 378. This helps refine the texture so that the formula doesn't feel too rigid, too dry, or too harsh on application. Now we add in some Lotion Pro 165, which is our emulsifier, and this is what allows us to create a true emulsion stick. Since this formula contains a meaningful internal water phase, we need a real emulsifier to hold that system together properly instead of just trapping water inside a wax base and hoping that it behaves. So Lotion Pro 165. Now that we have all that in our vessel, we're going to move into the treatment emollients and the slip modifiers. So we're going to be adding some lanolin oil, not just regular lanolin. This is the lanolin oil. And this is the one of the ingredients helping give the formula that overnight cling and dense conditioning feel that you want in a heel treatment. Very viscous. Then C1215 alkyl benzoate, and this is going to help reduce tack and heaviness so that the formula doesn't feel overly greasy. C12 alkyl benzoate. Then isoamyl laurate, and this improves the spread and gives the stick a faster, lighter glide. Isoamyl laurate. You'll notice that I am cascading my esters like I talked about in my last video. Octyldodecanol, this helps round out that payoff and supports the richer, smoother feel of the final product. Those are my three cascading esters. And lastly, in our oil phase, we're going to be adding some vitamin E, and that's our antioxidant. It helps protect the oil phase. Okay, we are all done, and so at this point, we're going to put phase A on top of our hot plate and heat everything until it's all fully melted, smooth, and completely uniform. And in the meantime, we're going to start working on our water phase. So we're going to start with our distilled water, and this is the foundation of the internal water phase, and it's necessary because our main treatment ingredient, urea, needs a real water phase to function. Then we're going to be adding some propylene glycol, also some glycerin. So this is the propylene glycol. And these are both humectants, and they help support the water phase. They also help the newly softened skin to hold on to moisture instead of just drying back out again. Let's get our glycerin in there. Next is liquid panthenol. That's going to add some conditioning support, and it helps to round out the formula so it doesn't feel just like one note. If all you have is your powdered panthenol, you're going to use a whole lot less because it's concentrated. Okay, then we're going to be adding some disodium EDTA. That's going to help support the formula stability and gives the preservative system some help by tying up those metal ions. Now we add in some sodium citrate and also some citric acid. And this is our buffer system, and this part really matters. So there's our sodium citrate. here's our citric acid. With a formula like this, we're not just chasing a pH number for the sake of it. We're building around urea, and urea is much more comfortable and more stable in a moderate pH zone than in a more acidic one. So at the same time, we're also going to be using some gluconolactone, and gluconolactone doesn't just sit there. Once it's in the water, it slowly hydrolyzes towards gluconic acid and can keep pulling the pH downward over time. So this buffer is here to help resist that drift and keep the formula from wandering as the system settles down. Gluconolactone acts as a mild exfoliant agent and moisturizer, and according to Jung Bunslauer, the notes that they have, the gluconolactone in water slowly hydrolyzes and acidifies the medium. So that's why we need this buffer. So sodium citrate, citric acid. All right, and then we are going to go ahead and add that gluconolactone. This gives the formula a second exfoliating angle in connection with the urea that we'll be using, but in a gentler way than salicylic acid. It helps with the surface renewal, but it also functions as a humectant. So it supports both the exfoliating side and the hydration side of the formula. Again, according to Jung Bunslauer, they describe gluconolactone as having exfoliating properties similar to hydroxy acids while also functioning as a moisturizer. So gluconolactone into the pool. Then we're going to be adding some allantoin, and this is not the star keratolytic here. It's here as a soothing support ingredient, which makes sense in a formula meant for rough, compromised heel skin. So this first part of the water phase, which I'm calling phase B1, this really is the support base. It gets the humectants, the buffer, the exfoliating support, and also the stability helpers into this solution first. We're going to pop this up on top of the hot plate and start to heat that up just a little bit so that we can dissolve all those powders. We got to heat this gently, just enough to get it uniform and get those ingredients dissolved properly. Okay, our water is all nice and clear now. All of those powders have been dissolved. I've taken the oil phase off of the heat, turned my hot plate off, and I put my emu oil on top of there to let that residual heat start melting that down. We're going to add the emu oil in our cool down phase. But in phase B2 is what I'm calling the water phase B2, is the addition of the urea. And we're doing that last because that part really matters. Urea is our primary keratolytic here, and this is the ingredient doing the heavy lifting when it comes to softening, thickened, compacted heel skin. But it also has to be respected in the process. Urea is happier in a moderate pH range, and it's also more comfortable when you don't subject it to unnecessary heat for longer than needed. So instead of throwing it into the water phase early and holding it hot the whole time, we build the base water phase first, and then we bring that phase down just a little bit, and then we add the urea later. So we're going to take our temps, and we are good to go, and we're going to start adding the urea. So we're just going to start adding the urea nice and slow with mixing until it's fully dissolved and the water is clear. All right, now that our water phase is clear, the process we just did was intentional. It's there because this formula is now built as a urea first system. And if urea is the star, then the process needs to respect that. So before we continue though, we are going to go ahead and check our pH. Very important. We're going to be aiming for a little bit higher, about 6.1. Make any adjustments necessary because don't forget that gluconolactone is going to hydrolyze and make that pH drift down, even though we have the buffer. So if our pH of our water phase is a little bit on the higher side, that's good. We want to eventually wind up with something between a 5.5 and a 5.8. But let's go ahead and check the pH. All right, we're sitting at about a 5.22. So I am going to put a couple of drops of TEA just to bring this up because I know that the pH is going to drift down.
Okay, we are sitting at a 6.11 right now, and that's really good. Again, we know that the pH is going to start drifting downward a little bit, not a whole lot because we do have that buffer in there, but remember that our urea likes a pretty specific pH. So let's give our oil phase a stir. Then we are going to add our water phase. And just because I'm making such a tiny little batch today, I am not using my overhead stirrer, but that's what's recommended to go ahead and make sure that everything gets blended correctly. But we're just going to go ahead and start adding our water phase slowly. You can see the emulsion forming. And then we're going to take our temperature, add our cool down ingredients, which is going to be our preservative and our emu oil. And then all we have left to do is just to go ahead and get these in our twist up tubes. Let's take the temp. We're at 132, so we need to let this cool down just a little bit more. If you have a homogenizer, you can go ahead and give this a couple of quick bursts with your homogenizer, and that's going to tighten the droplet size. Make sure you mix this really, really well. This step is important because even though this formula is ending up in a stick format, it's still a real emulsion. And so if the emulsion is weak here, then the rest of the formula is going to start off compromised. Once we have a nice smooth emulsion going on, which we do, this is a lovely texture now. Take our temperature again. We just want to make sure for the Germal Plus. We're at 129. We still got a little ways to go, but once that gets below 122, we can go ahead and add that Germal Plus, and that's going to be the preservative. And the timing on that matters. According to Ashland, they list liquid Germal Plus as a broad spectrum preservative for emulsions and aqueous formulations. It's effective from a pH of 3 to 8 with a maximum production temperature below 122 Fahrenheit. This is a gorgeous emulsion right now. Then we're going to be adding our emu oil, which I have pre-melted, as you see. And I'd rather add that here than expose it to the full heat of phase A if I don't need to. And I don't need to. So that's why I leave that till the last to get that emu oil in there. All right, let's go ahead and add that emu oil now. And we are good to go ahead and add our Germal Plus. Because remember, this has water in it. We need a preservative. We need a broad spectrum preservative. And a lot of people will say that that doesn't mean anything. That word doesn't mean anything. It really just means that it takes care of multiple things at a time. That's what broad spectrum means. All right, we've got everything now into our vessel. Giving it a good stir, and then we can go ahead and pour. And as we always do, we're going to leave it overnight to set up. And we are ready to pour. I'm going to go ahead and pour the rest of this into this small little bowl, because then tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and take a little portion of this, make a 10% solution, and reach at, well, 24 hours from now, I'm going to take a little portion of this, make a 10% solution, and go ahead and recheck that pH. Till that time, though, I'll bring you guys back. It's going to be 24 hours for me and just a few seconds for you. It is the next day, and here's the finished overnight heel stick, the urea heel stick. After 24 hours, you can see that it's set up in the tube really nicely, and it twists up nice and clean. And now we can go ahead and do the final pH check to see where this formula actually settled. And that step matters with a formula like this because, again, that gluconolactone is going to continue to pull that pH down after you've already batched it. So I made a 10% solution, 9 grams of distilled water, and 1 gram of the product. Let's just give that a little stir, and we will recheck that pH. You can see that it, I don't know if you can see actually. Let me put it this way, maybe you can see better. It pulled that pH down quite a bit. I can't see it now, so hold please. All right, you can see that that pulled the pH down actually quite a bit. So even though I raised that pH to 6.1, I could have gone higher on that because look at how much that pulled that pH down. Now that's okay. The urea is still going to be okay, but it does like a little bit of a higher pH than this. So when you guys make this, bring your pH higher than what I did. I would bring it up to maybe a 6.5, and then you'll be good to go. After the 24-hour check, it should come down into the range that we are looking for. And so once that final pH is where we want it to be, the stick is ready to use. And application is really, really simple. I'm going to use this one because this is going to be for myself. Let me twist this up. Oh, come on, twist up, buddy. There we go. I twisted it the wrong way. Anyways, you just glide it directly over your rough heels. Now, I already took some that was in this cup last night and put it all over my feet and put my socks on. Ooh, baby. My feet are like butter today, y'all. Anyways, just glide it on. Now, this stick is not going to be really hard, like a typical lotion bar that you have a whole lot of butters in there. This is going to be on the softer side. So don't just push it really, hard into your feet. Just glide it directly over your rough heels and your dry toes before bedtime. Put on your socks and let the formula stay in place overnight. But it's going to be a little crumbly right up on the very top part here because I haven't used it out of the stick yet. So it will do that. But anyways, let's just rub that in. What you will feel immediately is how occlusive this formula is. This is such a nice barrier. It feels wonderful. Matter of fact, I'm going to put some on my other hand too because my hands are really dry anyway. Now again, it's kind of crumbling like this just because I haven't used it out of the tube yet. It will smooth itself down. There we go. See? Now it's nice and smooth and it's no longer crumbling when I apply it. But let's rub that in. Yeah, the occlusive nature of this product is fantastic. And again, my feet today, woohoo, they are like butter, baby. There we go, y'all. Here's what we learned today. A heel stick like this works only when the formula is built with intention. It has to be strong enough to hold its shape, soft enough to apply well, and designed so the treatment system actually makes sense inside of the format. That means thinking beyond just more wax or more moisture and paying attention to how the structure, the humectants, the keratolytic system, and the water phase all work together. That's the difference between a product that sounds impressive and one that actually performs when you make it. If you enjoyed this formulation, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with another maker who loves building smarter formulas. The written tutorial and full procedures are available up on my Patreon. Thanks for hanging out with me today at Creation Station, and I'll see you in the next formulation. If you're a YouTube channel member, the written formula and instructions are waiting for you in the description box. If you're not a member, you can also get this formula along with more than 100 others and all future releases by joining my Patreon, or you can pick it up individually in my Etsy shop. All the links are below. Choose what's right for you.